Are you making the most of current market conditions?
Let's chat about that today on the Wandering But Not Lost podcast.
This is the Wandering But Not Lost WBNL podcast, where real estate and reality meet. And now your hosts, Jan O'Brien and Matt Emerson.
Well, welcome to the WBNL Wandering But Not Lost podcast, where real estate and reality meet. This is episode 227. They should name a show after that, I think. And you can find all of our show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. Jen O'Brien. We've been talking about the market shift for quite a while now, and it's been changing, but it really has. It's clearly shifted, and it's going to continue to shift a little bit. So I love the topic we're talking about today. I think it's really going to help out a lot of agents.
I know. I feel like this is a year that we're all having to deal with the fact that we're going to have a volatile market until we get settled down. And we're going to talk about what those reasons are today and how do you stay on top of it so that you can find the opportunities and make the most out of the market conditions. That's really what this is all about, because that's what we're doing, and we're not letting it get us down. You know, we're working on it as a team here in Vegas. We are literally on top of it and saying, well, that's happening. There's still people buying and selling. How do we capitalize on that? So that's what we want to share today.
I like what you and I were when you and I were talking yesterday, kind of about this topic. You know, we zoned in on the fact that either you can just be stalled and worry about what's going to happen, or you can take advantage of every single moment until whatever happens, right? So
that's a great point, because I do find that a lot of people do not like change, and they want it to be a certain way. And then you're battling against reality, which then causes you to not attract and be in that positive space of attracting people that want to buy or sell real estate. Because I'm telling you, we are certainly attracting people who want to buy real estate right now. We're focusing mostly on buyers. That's just because the way we have things set up online, we're attracting buyers, and we are really busy.
Yeah, that's good. All right,
we want to help you be really busy. Okay,
exactly.
So we're going to talk about making the most of current market conditions today. And as we record this, what's our date today? In case you come across this later, we're going to talk about market conditions as of February 17th.
This will actually drop on February 20th.
February 20th. Okay, right around February 20th, because, you know, that's the interesting thing. It's changing week to week right now as far as interest rates, and which then impacts our business. So are you on top of what's happening in your local market and nationally? We're going to show you how to do that if you're not, or how we're doing it. We really are going to talk about where are the opportunities right now based on this, volatility that we're seeing. And then it, of course, leads to helping people identify what skill sets do you need to refine, or do you need to enhance, or do you need to say, hey, I really never really understood it, or never really had the need for major negotiation skills or so on. But we're going to cover that briefly, and then we're going to wrap it up with what I think is the daily commitment. What we're all things said, there's several things, 3 or 4 things that you need to do every day. And if you do them every day, then you will have business. Okay. So that's it, right, Matt?
Sounds good. Yeah.
So what happened in the last week or so with market conditions? So if we kind of look at the beginning of the year, there's been a trend of the rates in this chart. If you're listening, we're showing a chart that you can get at our favorite app to track the interest rates and so much more about what's happening in national housing, and that's Mortgage News Daily. Mm-hmm. I am a major fan of this. I look at it every single day, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go along. But I'm looking at a chart that is the 30-year fixed mortgage rates from 21 right to currently, which really kind of shows the big picture of how they went up and then they came down a little bit. And then as we kind of started the year, we had this high of hitting the 6s, and then we were coming down. Actually, a little while ago, it got up close to 7, and then it's been down. It's been in the 6s, right? Hovering around the low 6s. And at one point about 10 days ago, or I wish I could remember the date. It was, I think it's like February 2nd. Okay. February 2nd of 2023, the rates went to 5.99 for the day.
Right.
And then they've been inching up ever since, and they went down because of the news. And this is what I'm trying to get at. What is making the rates move around is the news about the economy and inflation primarily, which then impacts the markets, particularly the mortgage-backed securities and the 10-year Treasury. Not just what Jerome Powell and the Fed is doing with the short-term Fed rate hikes to tamper inflation. So, the mortgage market already builds that in and knows they project what they're going to do. So they've already built those in. It's if they're responding to the news of what happened. So 5.99 came out when we had a good a CPI report. I can't remember exactly what the trigger was, and I was like, wow, this is great. But since then, what has happened since in just 10 days time from that period was a jobs report that came out that was better than expected, meaning that we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in years, which you would think is positive news, but it's not when it comes to the Fed trying to control inflation and so forth. It's all tied into this. So that plus then we get the CPI report just comes out. And that was not, it went up 0.05 year over year. I think it was, I can't remember the number right now, what the total number is. So we hit a high of almost 9, right? 9.1. It's been down in the 6s now. Well, the Fed wants to get it to 2%. The Fed's goal, and it's not going to give up doing what it can do under its Federal Reserve, mandates of what it can do to try to control inflation or deflationary pressures, blah, 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 which means the market went crazy. And so now as I record this, that was yesterday. If you guys are looking online, I'm just going to actually, as I'm recording this, as I'm recording this, Matt and I, it's February 17th. Well, these are yesterday's rates, 6.78, no points. So 6.78, that's getting dangerously close to 7. And then maybe are we going to go over 7? And this is the whole point I'm making. You've got to be aware of what is happening and why it's happening. And it has to do with the economic news and inflation, and that impacts the rates on a day-to-day basis, okay? So you start with understanding rates. The best way to understand rates, in my opinion, if you're not a mortgage lender or a finance person, is to get this Mortgage News Daily app, okay? And it's going to really help you track it. But the best thing I get when I go to this Mortgage News Daily is they write an article every day about why did the interest rates move around. And it's just going to help you so much, okay? So interest rates is the first part. Then what is happening with pricing and overall market conditions? So obviously the interest rates are going to impact, are buyers going to slow down? Are they jumping? So what was happening in the last couple, I would say since mid-January, what we personally saw happening here in Southern Nevada is more people starting to jump into the market because it seemed like the rates were staying, it's taken months for people to get to the realization that rates in the 6s to 6.5 are okay.
Yeah.
We know, you and I met are like, whatever, 6.5.
And it's going to be the new normal, at least, or it feels like it's going to be, right? So even at 6.78, it's not the end of the world. But instead of tracking down, I feel like they're tracking up again. And so you're going to have to watch and see what happens. But we're going to talk to you about, once you're aware of what's happening, what are the tools that you have? When we talk about opportunities, we'll talk about what are the tools that you have to help people, to talk buyers and sellers through what can they do to still go purchase a home, for example. Right.
But we'll stay on pricing, and you need to stay on top of what's happening. So we cannot blanketly say, you can definitely track national housing stats and what's happening. The Mortgage News Daily app has an entire area on their website about housing on a national basis. Keeping Current Matters, I've talked about in the past. You can find national stuff everywhere. You can go to CoreLogic. You can go to realtor.com, realtor.org. There's tons of national statistics. And that's great to know what's happening nationally. But here's the deal. Real estate is local. So what's happening nationally, it might say this is what's happening. But in your market, like in our market, we've seen prices decrease. We lost all the gains that we had in 2022. Those were erased because we ended the year where we had started the previous December at 0%, at 425 base median price. 425,000 was the median price in December of 2021, and it was the median price in December of 2022. And guess what? 425 is what it was in January. Just got those reports. So we've been stagnant. And now, but I talked to folks that are licensed in Florida. And in certain markets in Florida, the prices are going up. There's a lot of people moving to Florida. So there's still a lot of people in certain areas and certain markets of Florida fighting over homes, and they're not losing as much pricing. So it depends, right? So you've got to know that. And there's a chart that I also got from an article on Mortgage News Daily that I'm showing that talks about some of the major, the thing from Black Knight was basically, there are differences, and this is the fifth, they report on the largest markets, and some of them have had major decreases in overall value, and others have had less. And some markets are going to find maybe a couple of things of appreciation. The overall feeling for 2023 amongst the experts is not a lot of appreciation. In some markets, maybe depreciation, if not staying steady, and if not, just minor 1% to 2%, right? So this article is saying Black Knight sees home prices great gains turning negative soon. And we've already experienced that here in Vegas, but I think it all depends, right? So if we have a scenario, and this is what we're talking about, like Cosmo and I, my partner Cosmo and I here in Vegas will look and go, because we track the weekly stats. So if the interest rates keep going up above 7, what could happen? Well, people could jump back onto the sidelines. Sellers, we'd already have less inventory every week right now. People aren't putting their homes on the market here in Las Vegas, not what like we thought we would. So we don't have as much inventory. There are new home builders out there that are still building at a better pace than they used to. But I just said buyers started to jump back in the market. So now we're going, what's going to happen if we don't get good inflation reports in the coming months? If the inflation, I can't imagine, Matt, inflation ought to come down, don't you think?
Absolutely.
If inflation comes down, this is good for mortgage rates and people will continue to buy. But what happens if there's not enough inventory? So if more people jump into the market and there's not enough inventory, the prices are going to go up or down. They're going to go down. Down. They'll go up. Sorry.
Up.
They'll go up the other way around. If we don't have demand, then people will have to bring their prices down. So if the interest rates go higher, people don't put their homes on the market because they want to stick with their 2.75. The people that have their homes on the market are the ones that need to sell or want to get their equity out. So if people have their homes on the market and all of a sudden there's not much demand, they're going to have to lower their prices. Builders are going to have to lower their prices. So that's where prices come down. So this conversation, this thing that we're talking about here, or that I'm just spewing, you have to feel confident about that. If you can't do what I just did and have a conversation with a buyer or seller about it, then you're not on top of what's happening in the market. You're letting the market control you.
The beauty of these graphs and just having more knowledge on the whole situation is if you look at it, even in that graph, that the last one went from San Francisco being really negative to Tampa being, not so much, right? Both those scenarios, even though there was a pretty big difference in those, neither of them were indicating the end of the world, right?
No.
Which, if you were just listening to what's going on, you would think, or you could jump to the conclusion that, oh my God, the sky is falling, but it's not. And that's why it's so important to get that information.
And to your point, so we're not going to continue to see this crazy appreciation. That's for sure. That happened because of very historically low interest rates. The pandemic created the low interest rate scenario, 2-3%, right? And then we had no inventory and we had a high demand. Those three things created this frenzy. Well, now we're in a different scenario, but we still don't have massive inventory. So all these people that are online and people, here's the thing, people listen to the headlines. And that's this next thing I want to pull up right here. Is it all about that? So here's an article that mortgage rates are even higher. Again, all from Mortgage News Daily. Mortgage rates are even higher than you've been told. And there's a couple reasons for this. So I want to explain why I like Mortgage News Daily. Number one, daily. They are looking at the folks behind Mortgage News Daily survey. They actually reach out to lenders across the country and get their rate sheets through the day. Okay. Now, what happens is Freddie Mac will post, like a lot of people, and frankly, bottom line here is that I want to be able to get across to you is that the news, media are taking, for the most part, what is the common thing for them to look at is the rates that come out from Freddie Mac. The problem with that is Freddie Mac does a weekly survey.
Right.
They do a weekly survey, and that is old news. So right now, the news is talking about the interest rates aren't as bad. But the reality is they are right now. They're higher because it's a week old data. And it could be the other way around. They could be really high and they're really actually lower. So the challenge is the consumer just looks at the headlines, or they look at the thing that they get in Twitter, or they look at, you know what I mean? Nobody in my opinion, most people don't stop and really, including real estate agents,
I was just going to say, and most
dive
real estate
into
agents don't.
what does
Yeah.
this really all mean, okay?
Yeah.
But they're getting the headlines and they're reacting to what people are saying on social media and making decisions on whether they're going to buy or sell based on maybe erroneous data, okay? So this is just so powerful, and there's so much that comes out. Like when the Fed raises the rate, the interest rate, when Powell meets and that group raises it, then agents are online saying the Fed just went up a half a point, which means interest rates are going up. That's completely wrong and false. I mean, they already adjusted to that. And so I'm just saying that you have to be on top of it. And the only way to do it is to study it. And the best way to study it is to start with Mortgage News Daily at this point, and then go figure out whatever else you need to do to get on top of it and understand. I'm not saying you all have to go get a master's degree in financing and economics, but you do need to understand what we just talked about in this first 15 minutes of our podcast. And that is to just be able to explain what's happening. And then that's part one, okay? And Mortgage News Daily is going to help you with that.
And really and truly, a lot of times, I mean, getting back to being an expert at it, yeah, you need to understand how to actually explain the graphs and charts and the information that's in there. But at the same time, a good graph is going to tell the story on its own, right?
Listen, we don't have any skin in the game about Mortgage News Daily. I just particularly like it, okay? And maybe if anybody's listening and you want to put it in the comments on YouTube or wherever, or reach out to us, if you know of a better tool, then share it with us, because I'm all for getting the most data and the best information so I can stay informed so that I can support my clients, right?
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
So that's national. Now we got to bring it down to your local. And if you are a listener of our show, I don't know how many times I can say you must be the local market expert. You must be the local market expert, which does mean you have to be able to talk what's happening nationally in the economy, because that's going to impact your local market.
Absolutely.
But then you've got to dive in and really be a student of what is going on in your marketplace that you serve. And it starts with knowing the stats. And honestly, it starts with your multiple listing service. And everybody who's listening around the country, I promise you, if you go into your MLS software, I'm confident there is something in there that will help you understand what the stats are. In the two states I work, we have Matrix, and I get great statistics that are in there. And then in the state of Florida, they put great stats out that are talking about what's happening in Florida. And then in the various counties, there is a ton of content out there. I bet you just don't know where it is. Maybe because you haven't been a student of it. So go find it, okay? And you'll totally be able to keep track of it. And you don't have to go create it yourself, except this next part. I do think if you're going to, you can look, I believe in a weekly housing report. We use this as a staple to our business. Is tracking and not waiting for the monthly stats to come out, which most markets have that for you. You have to stay on top of it daily and weekly. And you can do that in the MLS to a point. But if you gather the data and you just don't look at it for the week, you need to be able to compare what was it a week ago and 5 weeks ago and 10 weeks ago, and where do you think it's going? That's probably been, Matt, the biggest thing. We had David Squire on, and he's the guy who started that. And that he shares that with us, and we continue to keep it up. And we do a post every single Wednesday, Cosmo does online, about what's happening in the Vegas market week to week. And
because
that has
it really
helped us
can
be
help the
more
conversation
informed.
can really help someone get off the fence if they know what's really happening in the market.
Yeah, 100%.
Buyers or sellers, right?
Staying on top of what's happening weekly, then you can project, and this is what's been brilliant. So we can sit and go, we think that the prices are going to be, so for February, Cosmo is thinking that they're going to be about the same. They're not. He first thought they were going to go up. That we saw in the beginning of January shows that the prices were lower because it's just an anomaly of less closings, more closings that were lower. Right now, through halfway through January, we're at 417, but we still have 2 weeks to go, and things are, because remember, closings are coming from things that went under contract 45 to 60 days ago. 45 to 60 days ago, it was the beginning, it was the end of the year, and it was the beginning of, it was slow, right? So very intriguing stuff to stay on top of, and then you can kind of see what's happening and be able to have strong conversations with people. And so find out where your data is locally be a student of that. And if you don't, you literally just have to go look at the stats every day in your MLS. They always post them, and then you can look at weekly stats and monthly stats and so on. So that's how you do it. And then it's getting out and knowing the inventory. All right. So the other part there, before I talk about some opportunities, is if you really get out and know the inventory by showing homes, and if you have new homes, I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a sec. I'm telling you right now, I have never understood our market more, just because of every single day I'm out looking at new homes and we're showing properties. And now it's truly inventory. Knowing inventory is everything, because you can immediately talk to somebody and say, like today we have somebody and I'm like, I've already thought of 4 places I can take them because of their parameters. Okay. And the only way I know that is because I'm out looking at new homes and resales, and we kind of know where opportunities are. Okay?
What's happening with new home pricing in Vegas?
It's interesting. They have made adjustments, a couple of big price reductions, just like the resale market had to do last year.
Right. And
now we're seeing some builders in certain price points have actually moved their prices up because, so to this point I just said, a few weeks ago, mid-January, we started to see a pickup in buyer activity. And every time we went out to a new home track, we would ask the sales agent. They're like, yeah, all of a sudden we have people coming. And I'd be out there on the weekend or any day, and you'd be like, all these people are all over the place at new homes, and we were seeing that with increase in inquiries.
Yeah.
So we've seen all that. Now I'm going to watch and see what happens with the rates to say, are people still out there? Well, let me tell you, let's get to what the opportunities are, because that's part of the buyer, the pricing for that. So, all right. So if you're going after listings, right, there are still people. I've been talking about this since last year.
Yeah.
And I honestly feel, why do we not have a ton of people on the market? It's because they don't want to sell, because they don't have to sell. And they mainly don't want to sell if they don't have to sell, because they have a sub-3 interest rate.
Yep.
So that is keeping a lot of everyday sellers on them that might have said, hey, why don't we just move up or move down, or let's go buy a new house. Those folks are going, not so much. So who's putting their homes on the market? People that have life events that happen, divorce, death, job changes. They've got to make the move. Or, these are my opinions, or they want to go ahead and get the equity out now if they're concerned about looking at the headlines. Are we going to have or is the sky going to fall? Or are we going to have?
If you don't have money in your mattress,
you're going to have recession. We're going to, the house prices are going to go down. So those are the people that are on the market. So you can, oh man, I just got, as we're speaking and we're recording, I got my notice. I have a notification that came in from Mortgage News Daily, and it went from 6.78 to 6.8 today.
There you go.
Up 0.2 of a point. So that's not good. That's trending the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, as sellers see 6.78, and if they were thinking of putting their home on the market because they wanted to go get another house, now they're sitting there doing the math going, the interest rate is more than double, which means I'll have a similar payment for less house.
Right.
So there you go. So what does that mean? In my opinion, less inventory. All right. Or people will decide to take their houses off the market if they don't sell. That's what we're seeing in all the trends that we look at here, because we track expires and withdrawals and so forth, and you can just see what's happening. But there are sellers that need to sell, so you could focus on people that have the big life events, and there's various things that you can do to specialize in that. People talk about foreclosures and short sales. I just don't see those yet.
Yeah.
We would have to have an extended job loss situation. The economy crashing a little more, and the economy is proving to be resilient, which is why the inflation rates are high. So we're proving to be a resilient bunch here. We're still buying, even though eggs, which is a joke, right? All these people saying eggs or whatever. I haven't paid $7 or $8 for it. Or do you see eggs at $7? No. I don't know what's going on. So see, there you go. All right, so sellers, you got to find the sellers. Buyers, I think there's a lot of opportunities with buyers, but there's some frustrations, right? For buyers, it's if it continues this way and we don't have as much inventory. I mean, every week for the last several months, we've had less inventory.
Yeah.
Because people are buying, but not enough sellers are coming onto the market to keep up with the demand at the moment, right?
Right.
But what we are finding is there are definitely opportunities for seller concessions for closing costs, which will, whether it's resale or new homes, buying down the interest rates and getting your closing costs covered, maybe negotiating a lower price. These are all things that we've done into the first part of the year, and all the transactions that we've done, which the majority have been new, we've been able to get all those things done. And then it's conversations with buyers now about, let's go take advantage of, yes, that rate might not be where you want it to be, but let's go take advantage of a market where there's not a ton of competition as there could be. The more people start to jump in and there's not enough inventory, we're not going to be able to get these concessions. Like we're going to go back to the seller's going to be able to choose a better offer. So I really still feel there's a great opportunity right now. If sellers aren't able to get their homes sold, then they're going to be more open to negotiating. Okay, that's what we're seeing right now. And specifically, if you have new homes in your market, and there's new homes in the Tampa market because I get all of their information.
Right.
Some of the same builders. All the builders right now are doing this to get their properties sold because they started to increase the number of properties they're building, and most of them are building spec homes, which is a way to control it, right? They release 4 or 5, they start the building process hoping that they can get them sold and then start building some more, right? That's the model. So all the ones that have houses on the market that are almost done or they're ready to move in, they have 3 main things. Use our mortgage company, and we will, they went and bought pools of money that are lower than the interest rates that we currently have. And with the interest rates going up, they're even offering a little bit less. So I see huge opportunities in new homes right now if you have it in your market. Like right now, we just got somebody at a 4.99 interest rate, a 5.25. And that's because the builder is offering that financing. And then they're also offering 2 to 3% in closing costs. And some of them are saying, make us an offer. So we've had several of our offers accepted have been below the list price with concessions and getting our people into a home with a good rate. Very exciting. And that's for their standing inventory, or they're calling it quick move-in. And quick move-in could be now out here in Vegas next month to 3 months from now. Okay. Well, because they're in the process of building them.
Right.
Now the deal with the spec homes is the people can't choose all their upgrades. They've already been selected, but that's where those deals are. Then if they're buying from the lot up, they're still offering incentives. We're getting $15,000, $20,000 in incentives in design center credits. So you come and buy the house now. We'll give you good financing if you use our lender. We'll pay for some of your closing costs, and we're going to give you $10,000 to $20,000 in design upgrades. So when you go to sit down and pick your upgrades, you get a credit. That's the kind of deals we're seeing right now.
Another opportunity that's happening right now in the market is seasonality is on your side. So ride the wave of seasonality, because this is the time of year when people do tend to, buy or sell more. So
now the key to, if you have new homes in your area, is real simple. Get your butt up every single day. Get out there and go look at the new homes. Use things like New Home Source Professional, which a lot of MLSs have. It's a little bit of a database of the new homes. Go learn it. Go figure out where the inventory is. Collect the brochures. Make a friend with the on-site sales agent. Talk to them. We do that. We've been doing it for the last couple of years. And what we have is, like, I had one of my ladies over at Richmond American always texts me, what's the standing inventory? She just texted me 2 days ago. Jan, we just had this come on the market. Buyer fell out. Here's the deal.
Yep, that's cool.
My management says make an offer. I'm like, okay, let's go see who we have as buyers right now. So that's what you can do if you get out and know the inventory on that side. And then on the resale side, it's about, if you're a buyer's agent, getting to know those listing agents that do a lot of similar idea, right? And then when you do a great job working with another agent, they're more likely to choose your offer, so you have a nice smooth deal. I call it being collaborative. I just call it collaborative deal making is the word I was talking about. All right, so there you go. So now all that being said, understanding the market, what do you need to get up to speed with, brings us to, what are the skills that you need to hone? Is it prospecting and lead generation? Are you good at that? Have you found your groove? Have you found your thing that you like to do? Because that's really the key to it. And even there, beyond that, maybe to add to this list of skills we're talking about, if you will, is, do you really know the market? Do you understand? Can you understand a market report that you get? Because I always couldn't. Only with doing a deep dive into wanting to learn market conditions and understand everything from interest rates to the economy to how to take a look at a report and go, what does this actually mean? Like you can look at a bunch of numbers and go, the median sales price is 425 and that's up this percentage. But can you explain that to a buyer or seller and what they should care about? That's what I mean by diving in. All right. And so prospecting and lead generation is an area. Then once you have the lead, how good are you at staying in touch with the lead, nurturing that lead, and ultimately converting that lead to work with you? What do you do for that? Do you have a CRM that you set up and that that reminds you to make phone calls? For us, we have our systems for when's the next time we need to contact somebody as a lead. And then for us, what's different is that people are following us online on social media. So that's one of the ways we stay in touch with them. They look at our content we post every day. So that's what works for us. Do you need to work on presentation skills? We got away from this, Matt, right? Ever since way back in the day when we did short sales, I swear to goodness, I feel like even way back then, it was like 14, 15 years ago now, we got away from doing listing presentations. And I feel like it's a bad habit that a lot of good agents got away from. And do you have and then when we had put a house on the market during the pandemic years, year and a half, whatever, houses would sell in literally, the same day. Nobody had to do a presentation. They just put it on. So we continue to have a bunch of agents that don't have a great listing presentation.
And here's the deal. Presentations, you could have augmented and changed your presentation a million different ways, but all the things we talked about today already regarding, knowing what's happening in the market now is your new presentation, right? So, I mean, that's it.
That's a huge part of it. Yeah. That's part of it. And the next biggest part of that is what are you going to do to market the home because it's sitting on the market?
That's right.
And the listing presentation to me is still always in whatever market, preparation, pricing, and promotion. That's it. How do you help them prepare so the house looks great and the photos look great and the videos look great? How do you help the seller get real about pricing? That's market conditions, Matt. Here's where we can be. We can be a little higher, a little lower. Here's what your home looks like. Everything's different. And then what am I going to do to get your home sold for the highest dollar, least amount of time? Do you need work on your buyer presentations? The key to the buyer presentation right now is everything we just talked about in the first part of this podcast. Understanding the market conditions, helping the buyer see that they could buy now, refinance later. Buy now to get the deals that we can negotiate for you, and you can refinance later. Or you can wait on the sideline and see what happens, and then we're here for you. But who knows what's going to happen? We can only look and see what's going to happen in the next month or so. Nobody can really see. And then things can happen. Like we were looking at really good. And one simple thing, meaning I thought the interest rates were going to stay a little bit lower. And then we get that small little tick up of inflation instead of a positive downward trend on inflation. And then the markets go crazy and the interest rates go up.
Right.
All right. So there you go. Negotiating. Maybe you need to take a negotiating course and getting good at being able to resolve conflict and negotiate a win-win. And then some people need to work on closing skills, right? You have getting the buyer or the seller to sign the contract, right? And there you go with that. So identify what you need to work on, put a game plan together and go work on it. Make a commitment today. I'm going to go work on my listing presentation and get that thing dialed in. Or I'm going to really go understand the stats and the market conditions to the level that I need to. And it kind of leaves me with the last part of what I want to talk about today is this is the key to everything. And then I keep coming back to, because it can get so overwhelming as you start to get busier. And we're really busy because we generate leads from our online months and months and months. Okay. Almost a year of, not quite a year. We've really only been doing it since May, June, consistently on the videos that we do.
Almost a year.
And yeah, right.
Yeah.
Don't wish it to be our birthdays already. Our birthday month's Matt Emerson, but it's coming up on us pretty quick. But because people consistently following us, and then they reach out when they're ready. So this is all we have to do. We have to lead generate every day. And what I mean by lead generate, it's what are you doing to nurture and develop new business? And to me, it's what is it that you like to do, that you're really good at doing, you're passionate about doing, and are you clear about that? And then you have to do it every day. Now, for us, it's generating new content because that's what's working for us. But if I was like the expired queen of the world and I was just loved it and I was good at it because I'm really good, I ran into a guy who I know is this guy because I keep seeing his listings. There's a guy that I've shown his listings, or about to show another listing, and he is getting the listing after it's withdrawn or expired. He's Mr. Expired King. That guy is good at that. And
Yep.
he does it. I will guarantee you every single day he's doing something to get another listing from a withdrawn or expired. Okay, that's his groove. That's his jam. That's his thing. You got to figure out what it is for you, and you got to do it every day. That's number one. Number two, you got to follow up with the leads that you're going to generate. You have to have a system for that. We do that every single day. We're like, today, before we jumped on this, I'm like, there's like 5 people here. I'm like, where are we at with these leads? What do we need to do? What do you need to do? What do I need to do? Who else do we need to get on the radar? And that's part 2, content generation, lead follow-up every single day. Then work with your active clients. Tomorrow, all weekend, we're taking clients out. We're going to go do all that. We're going to show homes. We're going to put people into contracts. If you're taking listings, you're going to do listing presentations, getting people to sign contracts, negotiate contracts for your seller. That's the other thing that you do as it happens. Then, number 4, you got to manage your escrows, which is time consuming.
Yeah.
Once you have the deals in escrow, there's a million little tiny details that have to happen. So you've got to manage in your perfect week those 4 things: lead generate, get new business, follow up with the leads that you already have, which includes your sphere of influence, work with your active clients, and manage your escrows.
So,
Rinse,
Jan,
repeat, do it every day.
I know you do this because you talk about it a lot. So when something comes up that's not in one of these categories, what do you do?
When something comes up, I basically have to handle it, but come back to this rescheduled something that, if something gets in the way and the day can get away. Like, for example, here's a classic thing that will happen. We will get behind in doing new content because we have clients that are taking all day, because the 2 of us will divide and conquer now, and you take that client, I'll take this client, but you can spend all day just showing properties and writing contracts, right? Yep. So what I do is I just start the day earlier. I try to, because since our lead generation is consistent content posting, I will try to get ahead of it, have it already in my draft so I can post it, or I will recommit to doing it later that day, or I start earlier. And the other thing that we just committed to doing, and we just started this month, is we hired a virtual assistant who is taking our content on our main channel, which is TikTok, reposting it now to Instagram and YouTube Shorts. It's really performing well on Instagram, but YouTube Shorts, it hasn't really picked up anything yet. And it's probably going to be a couple months before we can even see if that's generating additional leads, but it's something we knew we needed to do in the event anything happens with TikTok, because TikTok's always in the news. It's so funny. I saw an article. I saw something on TikTok from a news source that I follow that literally was talking about one of the congressmen that is behind the "Let's Get TikTok Banned." Here's the best part. You ready?
Yeah.
Who wants to get TikTok banned because of, China's got all of our information? Guess how much stock he just bought in Meta under the name of his wife and his son. So this is a news article that's come out that says this dude, and this is the whole point. Meta, Facebook, Google don't want TikTok.
Of course not.
Because it's taken eyeballs off of their stuff. And if Meta, aka Facebook, can make TikTok go away, Instagram Reels will become the new thing.
That's right.
It already is a thing, but nobody can compete with the thing that people like about TikTok. So there you have it. And I just went, there you go. There you go. So bottom line,
all you got to do is just peel the onion a little bit.
But here's the deal, Matt. What if it does happen? What if TikTok goes away for other reasons? There'll always be something else that will pop up. You gotta stay on top of it, and there you go.
On top of the drama, that will eventually happen. So, I mean, you do have to be, aware, right? And have another plan. You can't put all your eggs in one basket ever in real estate.
So that's it, right? Market conditions are going to continue to change. They always will. They maybe won't be always as volatile as they are. And the thing we leave you with today is, what are you doing about it? What have you already done about it? What are you doing about it? Because right now, things could be better in my world because of what we just shared with you about how we are. We're at the point, hopefully, here that Cosmo and I wanted to get it to a place that we have so many leads that we have to pass them off to the folks on our team. We knew it was going to take 6 to 8 months, and we're getting really close to that happening.
Which is the point of all of that, actually. That's great. Well, good stuff. And, we have been talking about the same topic for a while and, slightly different versions, but it is so important. And that's why we keep talking about it. So it's crazy. absolutely is crazy. Next week on the WBNL podcast, on episode 228, where our special guest is going to be Fred. Whoops, where'd he go? Fred Nassab. Fred Nassab works here in Orange County. He's currently a branch manager with First Team Real Estate in the Rossmore office. Always has one of the top producing offices in the company. First Team has been since the 70s, the number 1 or 2 company in Orange County. They know what they're doing. They have a great group of agents, and he is going to share some great information with us next week. It's really funny, Jan O'Brien. A few weeks ago, we had done a podcast called 9 in 90 Days. That was your goal for the beginning of this year.
You ready for an update?
Yeah. Go ahead.
We're at 8.
Well, there you go. See, and we're only halfway through.
Mm-hmm.
So that's awesome. Yeah. So Fred years ago started a program called 1090. When I was talking to him, booking him for the show, he said, we've augmented it a little bit. I think he said they're 5 or 6 and 90, because 5 or 6 and 90 in Rossmore, California is a whole lot different than 9.
Yeah, average sales price of about $375, $400 here.
Yeah, a little bit different, but it's just kind of funny, and it just kind of goes to prove what we talk about all the time, that real estate, you can do things a lot of different ways, but the basic fundamentals are the same thing, right? And he'll talk about a lot of the same things too. I'm looking forward to that.
That's gonna be great.
Yeah.
So First Team is also Christie's now?
Yeah, they have been for quite a while, actually.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, we're looking forward to that, catching up with old Fred Nassab there next week. And then we got some great stuff coming down the line. We've been talking about our new Sales Builder certification course. We've been hard at work on that, so that'll be launching sometime soon. Just good stuff. So what else, Jan O'Brien? Anything else? Any closing words?
No, I want to get up and get out and do some fun things. I'm trying to figure out how to fit that into the schedule right now, but I did book a trip to go back east in June. I booked the first flight out to Atlanta. I'm going to go visit family in June 6th.
Sweet.
Take a week and go see Florida. I'm going to go explore Jacksonville, where one sister has moved to.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm going to be in the ATL. And what about you? You guys got something planned?
No big plans. Running around, just mostly day trips, right? Which we bought a new car back in December, and we are getting good use of that for day trips on Southern California. The great thing about, this is true no matter where you live, probably, but we're really fortunate here because you can go on so many different varied road trips, either the mountains or the sea, pretty easily here in SoCal.
So have you thought about, just to throw it out there, it just came to me, have you thought about going on a longer weekend where you take your 2 kitties with you? So you can handle the medical issue?
It wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work? They wouldn't adjust?
We've thought of everything in the world. We've gone through everything in our minds in the world.
People take their pets on the vacation.
Yeah.
Or just bring Sheldon, and Whitney has a cat sitter.
Not all pets can travel.
Oh, he's not a traveler. Okay.
Exactly. Okay. All right, everybody. All the show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. This was episode 227. And go to the show notes, because we're going to have all the stuff we talked about today, plus some other links and some
great articles.
Yeah. So make sure you go over there and check that out if you've been listening or if you're watching on YouTube. So I guess that's it, everybody. Make sure you join us next week with Fred Nassab, our Ask 5. And until then, be forever wandering. Yeah, Ask 5. Be forever wandering, but not lost.
Ask 5. Ask 5. Ask 5.